They're right in front of me, and I'm not looking at them as if they're part of the here and now. I'm looking at them as if they're part of the future. Good morning to you. Good Monday morning from Sunrise, Florida. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. Comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or baseball. I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Panthers 4, Penguins 3 in a shootout. The result really doesn't do justice to how the visitors played, or I should say outplayed the Stanley Cup champions for 65 minutes because the champions did what champions do, and they found a way to get a big tying goal with 5 minutes left in regulation from Anton Lundell. Got to the shootout. Alexander Barkov scored the only goal of the shootout for either side. And that's the final score that gets posted. Anybody who watched the game, whether it was here in Sunrise, and there were plenty of Penguins fans on hand, or on TV or wherever, however, can attest that this was yet another continuation of this team's tough, resilient, stubborn, I think you could characterize it, play of late. The Penguins, of course, are on a 5-1-1 roll, most of that having been achieved with the revitalized Tristan Jarry in net. Some of that due to some new acquisitions in Connor Dewar, Connor Timmins. But most of it, if we're being blunt here, still on the backs of the same old names and same old faces. Sid's been terrific. Gino's been just fine. Another goal last night. Chris Letang's made some plays. Erik Karlsson's made some plays. Brian Rust made a bunch of them. In this one with 2 goals and an assist. Rickard Rakell continues to produce game after game. But even from those guys, what I'm looking for is some sort of convergence, really, a meeting point between this phase of the Penguins and the next phase of the Penguins. Here's what I mean by that. If I look out there, I don't want to keep picking on Noel Acciari. He's actually played pretty well of late. The guy gives it everything he's got. But just go with me on this, okay? If you have the Acciari types in your lineup, and you know you have others on the way who might be completely different types of players, but they need somewhere to play. They're guys who are up front. They might be penalty killers. They might be skilled guys. Whatever it is, you need to create space. There's only 12 vacancies. So actually, there's nowhere near 12 vacancies. There's only 12 positions if you're a forward. And then from there, the respective roles only become more and more specific and limiting as you go. But if I can go ahead and build my total top 6 or top 9, if I was using the entire organization and including next season or maybe even the season after that, you still would have almost certainly a top line of Sid, Rakell, and Rust. And next year, you almost certainly will still have Gino at center. But where are you going from there? Right now, he's taking shifts between Dewar and Phil Tomasino. Are those the best top 6 types that you have? No, they're actually not. Would you hope that a Rutger McGroarty or a Ville Koivunen could step up into that? Yeah. Could they be here now over those guys? Maybe. Same thing goes on the blue line. You've seen the way Mike Sullivan and staff have done mixing and matching on the back end because they're trying to find more appropriate ice time specifically for Timmins because he has done really well, but he's right-handed, so he's stuck behind both Letang and Karlsson, obviously on that side. So what did they do? They had Karlsson move to his left side, at least after the first shift. It's hilarious that Karlsson did the entire first shift of this game here last night without budging from the right side. He eventually got over there where he's supposed to be. But what happens next season if and when Harrison Brunick arrives? Brunick's going to be in Wilkes-Barre. He's going to be part of what the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton Penguins are hoping to do this spring because he's also right-handed. Anyway, these are the kinds of thoughts that I have. These are the kinds of things that go through my mind in addition to the very real need to have people in place who are a transition to the Penguins' championship days, to the Penguins' approach in winning those championships, to the pride that's coursed through the franchise beginning back with the Mario Lemieux days. That matters too. For those of you who love simplifying this and just say, get rid of all the old guys, blow everything up and whatever, that's just not how anything works. That's just, there's no template for that. Not a successful one anyway. Certainly not in the NHL. Does not exist. Listen to this from last night. I went and asked Raquel what he thought of the way Rust performed, not just in this game, but the way he's performed of late in general.
I mean, he's doing all the right things on the ice. Big part of our power play, big part of our penalty kill, big part in our 5-on-5, big part of like any situation on the ice. So, I mean, and he's always, you always know what you're gonna get from him, and always gives it all every shift. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely one of the guys who you want to look at or look up to when it comes to like how Pittsburgh Penguins hockey is supposed to play.
Did you make out that last part? Yeah. People say things like that about Rust, which, I mean, this is the man's second language, and it sounds like poetry. That's the way they speak of him. It's not forced. It's not phony. That's just the level of respect that he gets. That matters. The way this team is playing in general of late matters. And anybody who'd rather that they be losing or getting mopped up or embarrassed doesn't understand how much additional damage that does, how much deeper it digs the hole that you're trying to get out of, instead of saying, hey, look, we're right there with all of these teams. We're either competing with them or we're beating them night after night after night. Get us some help here. Get us some kids. We'll make them better. We'll make them fit with what we're already doing. When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Today's J1Q comes from Rocco, who says, does anyone know when was the last time the Penguins won a shootout? The answer is mid-November against the Sharks of all teams. And in fact, that was the only shootout the Penguins have won all season out of 7. So if it feels to you as if they're terrible at this, that's because they are. And within that, if it feels to you that they've really, really, really regressed as individuals, that's also accurate. Some crazy numbers that I looked up at the arena last night after this game because of something that Mike Sullivan said to the subject. Sid is a career 38.7% finisher on shootouts. That's really, really good. But like almost everybody else who's this good on shootouts, he accumulated those numbers a while back before there was this whole wealth of knowledge that was spread to goaltenders and to coaches all over the place about how this guy does this and that guy does that. And almost all of the element of surprise was lost from the shooters, who, of course, are the ones with the puck on the stick. They're the ones with possession, and they're the ones dictating the play, naturally. Sid is 1 for 6 this season on shootout attempts. Going back to the 2018-19 season, he's 8 for 27. Now, Gino, if you're ready to say, wow, that's just a Sid thing then. Okay, Gino's career mark on this is 33.1%. Also would be really, really good today. Also, almost all of which was piled up early. Since that same season, the 2018-19 season, Gino's 2 for 12 on these things. And the most striking figure out of that is that he's only had 12 attempts. Like, they don't even want him doing it. Chris Letang, for those of you who can remember far back enough that Letang had this one just automatic move where he'd lift the right knee and then go to his backhand and put it right under the bar in the center of the net. And everyone knew it was coming. And somehow the goaltenders still seem surprised by it every single time. Well, guess what? That's not the case anymore. Letang has a 31.4% finishing rate for his career. Again, since that same mark, 2018-19 season, you're not going to believe this one, 3 for 22. So what's happened here, and this part I'll give Sullivan credit for, when you look at the main shooters now, the guys who are taking the most attempts, it's the 3 who went in this one. It's Sid, because he's still Sid and he still does finish. Sometimes he's not a catastrophe. But it's also been Ricard Raquel and Brian Rust. Those guys have been good. Rust wasn't allowed to be part of the shootout for the longest time, something that, by the way, he wasn't all that thrilled with. Now he's out there taking regular shots. It's still not making a dent. In some cases, it's that the Penguins have scored sufficiently on the shootout but haven't gotten any saves. As it is, it's been the worst of both worlds. This was what Sullivan had to say last night after the game on the subject of shootouts, and pay particular attention to what he says at the very end of this reply.
Well, that's been the age-old question for forever that coaching staffs throw around. The challenge is that the obvious response would be, well, we can practice it, right? But the challenge is you can't create the environment that those guys are participating in. When you put 18,000 people in the stands and you got to go down, it's very difficult to simulate that circumstance. So I've tried it a million ways this Sunday to try to get better at it on just different teams that I've coached over the years. My experience has been you've got guys that tend to be inclined or you don't, and we've had moments. I think it tends to be streaky. There were some years where we were pretty good at it. Historically, our top guys have been great at it. They're Sid and Gino and Tangman, those guys were at 40% for the majority of their careers. Those guys excelled at it for a long time. It's not my favorite way to end a game. Let's just say that.
I got to tell you, that doesn't sound great coming after a loss, and that doesn't sound great coming in a season where you can't win these things to save your life. But I completely agree with him anyway. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We'll be back with another one of these tomorrow when I'll be up in Tampa getting ready to cover the game against the Lightning Bolts.